From the Attention Era Media Studios in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, this is Two Up Front, presented by Three Lines Pub. I'm Baxter Colburn. No Simon Provan today, unfortunately. He has the day off. He has professional obligations. He mentioned a little bit on Tuesday. He is a professor at a local university, so he has a presentation today, actually. He had the opportunity to go and get certified for something very important in his theatrical craft this last couple of months, and he has to present on it today to a select group of people at the school. So a very exciting opportunity for him to serve out one of his passions, which is acting. So he will be missed today, but in order to make up for his absence, we have to bring on three different guests today to keep it kind of real. Basically, it's like, all right, no Simon Provan, but we'll have to make it up by having three people replace him. So Simon, that's how much it takes to replace you and your ever wonderful analysis and excitement that you bring to our show. So those three guests today are going to be appearing on the shopfutsal.com call-in line. We'll have Melissa Henderson of the Houston Dash in our second segment. Jess McDonald of the Western New York Flash will be here in our third, and longtime friend of the show, Chris Blakely of VAVEL USA, one of the lead editors over there, will be joining us in our fourth segment. If you, of course, want to get involved with the action, you can tweet at us at 2UpFrontSoccer, the number 2, of course, at Baxter Colburn. Simon's not here, but you can still tweet at him, of course, at Simon Provan. Drop us an email, 2upfrontsoccer@gmail.com. And, of course, as we do broadcast live on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 12 to 1 p.m. Central Time, we'd love to hear from you, the listener, as well. All right, a lot of great things to get to on our show today. If you ever do miss a show, of course, head over to our website, 2upfrontsoccer.com. Time for the Kick Around, brought to you by Too Much Metal for One Hand, a very exciting sponsor that we always enjoy having be involved with our show. A lot of different things that we could talk about in the soccer world. Of course, the Champions League is going on. MLS Cup is, of course, on Saturday. There's so many different ways that you could go. But the first thing I want to talk about does involve Champions League. I want to just, the Champions League group stages are finishing up. They are completely finished now. There was games back on the 6th and on the 7th, respectively, so Tuesday, Wednesday. The group winners have been announced. We know the teams that are officially going through. The round of 16 draw will take place on Monday, so that's going to be an exciting time. Of course, being an Arsenal fan, I've already decided that we're going to be playing Barcelona, which means we're going to lose, so thanks for nothing. It's been a great year. But no, Arsenal's got a good chance. Obviously, they took down Basel 4-1 back on the 6th. Barcelona took out Mönchengladbach 4-0. The PSG Ludogorets 2-2 draw. I was a little surprised by that. Man City and Celtic 1-1 draw. Some folks may or may not have called that. That's kind of an interesting shake-up from that one. Bayern Munich took down Atletico Madrid 1-0 in their game on Tuesday. The game, though, that a lot of folks were really active on social media talking about was that Borussia Dortmund-Real Madrid game yesterday. Folks were saying, well, if Real Madrid wins the game, they win the group. Very straightforward. A draw or a loss, of course, required then that Borussia Dortmund would then win said group. And that is exactly what ended up taking place. Borussia Dortmund would end up getting the draw after Real Madrid led 2-1 in the match, but they were able to fight back and tie the game 2-2, ultimately winning the group from Real Madrid, who was very excited and hopeful to take the group, but that is not how it shook out for them this time. So you look at across the groups, you got your Group A winner is Arsenal. Group B, you got PSG is the runner-up. Napoli wins Group B. Benfica is the runner-up. Barcelona and Manchester City 1-2 in Group C. Atletico Madrid, Bayern Munich 1-2 in Group D. Monaco and Bayer Leverkusen in Group E 1-2. Borussia Dortmund, the winner, of course, we just mentioned in Group F. Real Madrid, the runner-up in that group. Leicester City, they got pounded by Porto 5-0 yesterday, but they still win the group, and Porto finishes second. And then Juventus wins Group H, and Sevilla is the runner-up in Group H. One thing that's been swirling around with the Champions League, people have been actually talking a lot more about Borussia Dortmund, saying, look, this is a high-quality team. They know what they're doing. They're much more of a midfield-centered team. You've got guys that are stepping up to make the plays, and one guy that continues to get talked about a lot in the U.S. media, for good reason, is Christian Pulisic. We know a lot about Christian Pulisic. We know what he's capable of doing. For those that are men's national team fans, you've seen him probably play more than once, and you've seen, at least more than one or two different national talking heads freak out about him, saying he could be the next this or the next that. But realistically, I mean, let's be honest, Christian Pulisic is much farther ahead in his career at this point than he is, than Landon Donovan was, or other guys like Clint Dempsey and Eric Winalda and all those other guys. So Pulisic is in a class of his own. There's still a lot that has to be decided about him. I myself have been a critic of him, and I'm coming around to it. Simon is fairly on board with Christian Pulisic. I'm pretty much on board with it. I think I wanna see a little bit more from him. I'm a big component of those one hit wonder kind of people who are like, look, they had a good year. Can they do it again? Look at Cam Newton last season in the NFL for the Carolina Panthers. He's been next to quiet in 2016. So it's an ebb and flow, and soccer's a game of consistency, and if you're not consistent, you're never going to win. So, but one thing surrounding Christian Pulisic specifically is the fact that there is a $30 million transfer rumor circling around the young 18-year-old. He played in all 6 of Dortmund's Group F games, which I think is crazy. He started 5. He started last night at the Bernabeu against Real Madrid, which some folks thought was just absolutely incredible. But if Pulisic were to actually make the move, it looks like Liverpool is the team that is making the big $30 million transfer fee, according to the Daily Mail. So we're not exactly sure. We do know, though, that there was rejected transfer offers of $12 million last year from Liverpool. $30 million, maybe it seems like a little bit much, but at the same time, is it, though? He's a young, quality player that has been playing at the highest level possible and succeeding not only in the Bundesliga, which most would say is probably the second best league in the world outside of the Premier League, and then you also have him succeeding in the Champions League, starting 5 out of 6 games against high-quality opponents and actually contributing to the matches. It's not like he's just on the field running around waywardly for 90 minutes. He is actually getting assists. He's actually being a part of those attacking plays in the final third and really starting to make a little bit of a name for himself in Europe. We know who he is in the United States, but in Europe, people are starting to say, oh, this Pulisic kid, who is he? He's from Pennsylvania. What is Pennsylvania? People, in Europe, I'm sure they are a little bit more cultured than that. But you get what I'm saying, though. People are starting to realize that, an American is actually doing really well in Europe. And that doesn't happen very often. And sometimes the European soccer world doesn't like that. So it's kind of cool to see a United States men's national team player, only 18 years of age, not only be rumored for a $30 million transfer to Liverpool. Jurgen Klopp and company definitely doing very well in the Premier League this season, but adding a guy like Pulisic would be great as well too. But then of course the question goes, well, how much would he play? Does he have the better opportunity to stay in Dortmund and still play at a high level? But the Premier League is kind of that end all be all. That's why it's called the Premier League. It's as high as you can possibly go at the club level. And if you have the opportunity to play for any team in the Premier League, I think it's virtually worth it, honestly. I mean, I think that why not? You get to play against the world's best players week in and week out. So we'll see if he makes the move. I'm curious to get your guys' thoughts about that. At Baxter Colburn on Twitter, at 2UpFront Soccer, if you think Christian Pulisic should stay or should he go come the January transfer window. One of the things that has been the forefront of a lot of news recently has to do with expansion in Major League Soccer. We know Don Garber loves to talk expansion because that means more money going into his bank account, regardless if he actually says that or not. We all know that kind of is the general idea of what ends up taking place. But 2 more teams announcing that they are making huge bids to get into MLS. The Tampa Bay Rowdies from the NASL and the Carolina Railhawks have rebranded to North Carolina FC, have also announced that they would like to get into MLS as well. North Carolina makes a lot of sense. It's a very large soccer hub, more so for women's soccer. North Carolina FC is also having NWSL aspirations also, so we will get the opportunity to maybe see an NWSL team down there in the next couple of years, which I think would be fantastic. I think North Carolina is a perfect state for the NWSL. From an MLS perspective, potentially, yeah. I think that, why not? More the merrier. At this point, I think you need to figure out what that cap number is, because for a while Garber was like, we're going to do 20 teams, now we're going to do 24 teams, now maybe we'll go to 28 teams. You continue to add more teams, the promotion relegation birds are going to continue to squawk and squawk and squawk and say, we want promotion, relegation. So you got to think about that. Be careful, Garber, the more teams you add, the more times you're going to get people howling at you for promotion, relegation. And this would be interesting, too. If Carolina and Tampa both come into MLS, that would mean that somebody in the Eastern Conference right now would have to get bumped probably into the Western Conference, and probably Columbus or Chicago would be my guess, would probably get the bump. I'm not exactly sure from a geographical perspective who that player would be. So either way, that team would be, honestly. So, there's a couple of different things, obviously, with MLS expansion. I think it's good. Tampa Bay was a part of, the original MLS back in the day, or back when they were originally, Miami, I guess, was, and you had the teams, earlier on that were playing really well. Simon's obviously more the historian than I am in that situation, but I think Tampa Bay would be a good following. They've got a beautiful stadium rendering that they have up, and they're using the hashtag MLS to St. Pete. So I think that from a Florida perspective, you've already got Orlando. Miami's kind of started working it out with David Beckham FC and all that stuff, so we'll see what happens with that. So either way, though, some great stuff coming up for you. I'm excited to have Melissa Henderson, Jess McDonald, and Chris Blakely all join us on the program. So we're going to step to a break. When we come back, Melissa Henderson will be with us. You're listening to Two Up Front, presented by Three Lines Pub. Stay with us. Back inside the Attention Era Media Studios, it's Two Up Front, presented by Three Lines Pub. I'm Baxter Colburn. No Simon Provan today. He is off for the day, but he'll be back next Tuesday, and then he'll be off again next Thursday, though. He's got another surgery that he's got taking place, that he's got to get taken care of. Some things here and there that have got to get worked out. But I guess that's what happens he's a very active person, so you got to make sure that the body is staying in top shape as best as he can. So we are going to move on without him, but as a reminder, of course, that if you ever want to interact with Simon or myself on social media, you can get us at Baxter Colburn and at Simon Provan as well on Twitter. All right, time for the first interview of the day. We always love when we have the opportunity to bring on players to hear their perspective about their league they play in, the teams they play for, their career as a whole. And we've had several players on from the Houston Dash before: Rachel Daly, Denise O'Sullivan, and Lydia Williams, and Ellie Brush, and many others. And now we get to add to our arsenal by welcoming Melissa Henderson to the program on the shopfutsal.com call-in line. Melissa, good afternoon. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me. How are you?
I'm doing really well. We were talking off the air. I am freezing, and apparently you are also. I need you to say it again so I know that you weren't lying to me. How cold is it in Houston right now?
Yeah, it's coming to the 20s. There's a cold front
Oh
coming
my
in that's supposed to be
gosh.
hitting right now through the evening. I know, in Texas. Pretty crazy.
No kidding. You were telling me, you're like, oh, it's cold. And I'm like, okay, people in Texas are probably freaking out because it's below 70 degrees. And you're like, no, it's 20. I'm like, what? I was like, I'm originally from Florida, so similar situation. Anytime it's below like 65 to 70 degrees, I'm freaking out and, running to my coat jacket, basically. It's crazy. But either way, I'm inside a warm studio. You sound like you're inside someplace warm also, so hopefully we can avoid the cold for at least a little while if it's possible. But I want to talk about your 2016 season for the Houston Dash to open up the interview. You yourself were a little back and forth, obviously, throughout the season, but you did get the opportunity to get on the field a couple of times, and Houston was decent. I think that's the best way I think you can really kind of describe Houston. They've got the players, and myself and Simon have said that on the show before too. You guys have the players to be successful, but it didn't all line up for you guys in 2016. But from your perspective, now that the season's done and been over with for a couple of months, what was your perspective of how 2016 worked out for you?
I think that obviously it didn't go as expected for us or how anybody else kind of portrayed it going. However, I do think, we have some amazing, tremendous, talented players and a coaching staff and organization that's dedicated to developing players, developing our play, and making sure that they're putting us in a position to do well. So obviously it did not go as planned, and there are a few tweaks that have been already made this off season, whether it be players or organizational. There's been a lot of tweaks that have allowed us to kind of move forward and plan for a successful season in 2017.
I think Houston did have a couple of bright spots, of course, regardless of only winning a handful of games. I'm sure many folks would point right to, Kealia Ohai, of course, for all of her goals. Talk a little bit about, from your perspective, of seeing her just kind of surge out of the darkness. We know, obviously, for those that really followed her, that she was a great player and is a fantastic player even to now. But for those that were kind of watching the season as a whole, and all of a sudden it's like, whoa, who is this player scoring goals left and right? What was the feeling, I guess, at the Dash camp to see her continue to just have this huge surge of success the entire season?
Honestly, just excitement. I think every single one of us knew her capabilities, and I've been saying it for years. She should be, with the U.S. national team, and she's proved that now that she's even gotten the opportunity. So I think just proud of her and just her persistence and her dedication to becoming a better player and taking the team on her back and kind of trying to get us back on track to scoring goals and being successful.
Well, speaking of the U.S. national team, too, Melissa, you had the opportunity to be a part of a national team camp back in 2011. To my knowledge, you haven't had any opportunities since that point. Has there been any conversation at all with Jill Ellis or any of the other managers over the last couple of seasons to potentially bring you back at all?
Honestly, right now, I'm kind of in a different place in my life. I'm playing because I love the game, I love my teammates, and I love the sport. But honestly, I'm playing for the Lord, the one that I'm serving. So I haven't really been in conversations with that, and I don't really know what he has lined up for my future. But right now, I'm just focused on the Houston Dash and trying to be an influence there the best of my ability.
And I will say this too, Melissa. One of the things that people know that if they listen to our show is that our faith is very important to us on Two Up Front as well too. It's even part of our tagline as well too. But we, being able to see players and coaches and anybody in the mainstream sports world be open about their faith, I think is always a positive thing. And I have the opportunity to follow you on social media a little bit as well, too. You and I are friends on Facebook and a lot of that other stuff. And I've noticed recently you've started doing Facebook Live devotionals. I'm curious to get your thoughts about that and what inspired you to do that, because I think that's fantastic.
Oh, thank you. I don't know. I feel like the Lord speaks to us in so many ways, and that was one thing that I really felt that He put heavily on my heart. And I think that there's so many things that we go through in life, and it doesn't even have to be sports related, but just throughout our careers and our setbacks and stuff like that people can relate to, and people they want answers or they need a sense of healing, and And I really just wanted to do it as a whole, just to reach out to anybody who has the feelings I have or has other anxieties that, they're kind of looking for answers for, and just kind of providing that, the one and only counselor is the counselor, to help you with your problems and to seek you through it, and just kind of continue to help people find faith and find that in Jesus Christ. So I just want to utilize my platform to the best of my ability to try to glorify Him in any way I can.
Well, I think that's absolutely fantastic and remarkable, too. You don't hear a lot of professional athletes be so open and honest about their faith, and especially like someone like yourself that's fairly well known, of course, across the women's game. So I highly applaud you for that, and I'm excited to continue to see where that takes you. As you look forward, I personally didn't know this, and I'm a little bit newer advocate to the women's game over the last couple of years. When I was preparing to have you on the show today, I didn't realize that you had retired and then came back. For me, and for those that maybe didn't know the circumstances behind that, first of all, it's great to have you back, so thank you for coming back to the soccer world. It's good to have a talented player like yourself back. But talk me through retirement. Why retire so young and then decide, just kidding, I'm going to come back and play again?
I know, joke's on me. Well, I kind of saw it as I was retiring because I felt maybe it's time to do what's next, with the league and trying to be financially stable and trying to build what's next in your career. I was like, I had other avenues that I was going to pursue and other passions. So I was like, this must be it. This must be, the time to move on and glorify in a different way. And I was doing the War Room Bible study, and I did that online last year as well. And I literally just felt the calling as I was in the middle of the study that just called me back to the league and to utilize that platform and to be all in and to make sure that I'm, taking part in the community and the organization and being the best teammate that I can be and friend. And so I literally felt the calling of the Lord, and it's so hard to explain, but it's just a rush of adrenaline, and you have this faith and this just calmness and peace over your decision. And I literally called Randy in the middle of my Bible study, and I was like, Randy, I'm coming back, and I don't know if you have room for me on the roster or not. I just want to let you know before I let the league know that I'm 100% coming back to the NWSL, and I'm ready to serve any way that I can. The Lord just put it all together, and there I was within a week back with the Houston Dash signed and ready to head to preseason. So it was just a calling coming back, and just trying to be obedient to the Lord, and that's kind of what brought me back. And I mean, I'd never look back. I think it's crazy because we always try to plan our path, and but He's the one who directs our steps.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
I thought that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you on that one too. It's funny too. God works in mysterious ways, and I've had that opportunity a couple of times throughout my life as well too, where it's like, okay, this is my plan, and then God's like, okay, that's funny, Baxter. How about you actually do this instead? You're like, wait, what? That's completely different than what I had in my plan. It's just crazy though how that works. And I'm sure from a professional soccer standpoint too, some people will say, well, professional sports is kind of like having a job as a whole too, but being able to, it's a little different, I feel like, to retire and then come back. That sometimes puts you under a lot of criticism. It's like, well, she couldn't make up her mind. What is she going to play? Does she not want to play? But you utilize your platform the way you do to be such a light, I think, for so many other people. So I think that is incredible. So now that you've done everything that you've done, and you look ahead to next season, what are some of the things you're hoping to accomplish, not only on the field, but even just with your mission, I guess, and your ministry as a whole?
Well, honestly, on the field, I want to be the best player that I can, whether it be, the playing time, being a starter, or even being that teammate that's going to practice so hard and challenge the starters to make them a better player and prepare them for week in and week out of the competition. But, I think we have a great team going forward, and I think this is going to be a very special season, and you can take my word for that now. And that's kind of my on the field goals is just to be the best that I can do, and then be in for everyone, including the staff and the community and the organization as well. Off the field, I'm super excited. I'm planning to continue my Dash and Tell with Mel, just kind of a series of my own kind of show online to where people can have fun, with the athletes, but also get some information about what they're feeling in the games and stuff like that. And then I'm also going to be doing stuff for the Dynamo and doing some of the broadcast journalism for them.
Wow, okay. That's fantastic.
So that's kind of my plans for off the field. I have a passion for sports and for doing broadcast journalism, and also I'll be doing leading a few youth groups in some churches that are close by that people have reached out to me to serve for, and so I'm just super excited. I don't really have exact plans for what he has in store, but I'm reading kind of in the Bible study I'm doing right now, if it's about not seeking the opportunity, but seeking God and letting the opportunities come to you. So that's kind of what I'm doing. I'm just living life and what God puts in my path, taking advantage of and just enjoying every step of the way.
Wow, I'm from one sports broadcaster to another, Melissa. I'm excited to see where your career goes, and I am wholeheartedly very grateful for you taking the time to jump on Two Up Front today. I think that your story needed to be heard, and I hope that the listeners today were able to even take a little something away from it. So from one Christian to another, thank you, and I look forward to having you back again on the show soon if it works out.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And again, I appreciate you letting me share my story and just letting me be a part of it.
Absolutely. Anytime, Melissa. All right, we are going to run to a break. When we come back, Jess McDonald of the Western New York Flash is going to be here. I'm going to chat with her a little bit about some of the things she said last time she was on the show and see where she's at now, since she has maybe added a piece of silverware or two to her collection since that time. We'll talk to her and do a lot more after that. It's Two Up Front, presented by Three Lines Pub. Stay with us. It's Two Up Front, presented by Three Lines Pub from the Attention Era Media Studios. I'm Baxter Colburn. No Simon Provan today as we roll along with the program. Special thanks to Melissa Henderson of the Houston Dash for jumping on that last segment. Great to hear her story and testimony overall as well about being a Christian athlete in the sports world and just hearing about all the amazing things that she is doing. So I wish Simon could have been here for that, because I know Simon loves when we have athletes and coaches on too that share their faith openly like that. Well, one person that we know also is very open about their faith, but also has had some recent success. Things have changed a little bit since the last time we had her on the show. Is Jess McDonald of the Western New York Flash, and she is here again on the shopfutsal.com call-in line. So Jess, welcome back to Two Up Front.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We're excited to have you back on the show, Jess. I on my way to the studio today, I thought I would listen back to the interview with you last time you were on the show, because I was like, okay, I'm curious to know what everything that we said and we talked about, because the season hadn't finished yet, and we were still playing the what-if game with Western New York and all that. So now that it's all said and done, first of all, congratulations on winning.
Thank you.
So is it finally, is it really set in now? I mean, it's a couple months removed, of course, but can you consistently wake up now and be like, wow, yeah, we actually did do that. Wow, we actually are the best team in the league.
Yeah, most certainly. It's just one of those things, like your dream literally came true, and it's still sort of unbelievable to a certain extent, but it's also a great feeling waking up knowing that you are a champion. So it's been absolutely incredible.
No, I completely agree with you on that one too. I was listening back too, and I was like, all right, what are some of the questions that I asked her that I can try to ask her again? And I think one of the things that stuck out to me the most is having the conversation with you about, Western New York Flash not really having a lot of high quality elite players that anybody really knew about. And then all of a sudden, you and Lynn Williams and Sam Mewis and Sabrina D'Angelo all of a sudden are like, and many others are like, okay, enough of this. We're okay players. We're going to be these crazy, huge, amazing players and get national team call-ups and score lots of goals and do all this crazy stuff. So has the narrative changed a little bit? Because I certainly think it has.
Oh, yes, most certainly. Because if you look at us at the beginning of the season and seeing us now being on the U.S. Women's national team roster, it just shows you the incredible things that we have all accomplished together, not just as individuals, but also as a group, as a team.
Talk to me about the national team, Jess, because I think a lot of folks were excited when Lynn Williams got the call, and we're like, okay, yeah, very deserving. And then all of a sudden we find out a couple weeks later that you get a chance to go into camp and get an opportunity to play in some friendlies. And I know I was excited. I know Simon was excited, and a couple others as well too that I'm close with in the soccer world. We're very excited about having you get that opportunity. And with the first question we had, we're like, well, is Jess too old? Because we know that's the criticism sometimes placed on players above what even nowadays 24 or 25 playing at a national team. But you were able to show that you still got it and you can play at the high level. And I'm thoroughly excited about that. But I'm curious to get your thoughts about what it was like to be in the trenches and train with those ladies and play in some games and wear the United States jersey.
It was absolutely incredible, and it was very comforting coming into camp simply because I knew all the girls going into camp in the first place, which always sort helps. Of a comfort zone for me. Yeah, it helped big time. And so it was very welcoming coming from them because, a lot of them are already my friends and I already know a lot of them personally, which was really cool. And so I wasn't coming in as, one of those young players that came in, oh my gosh, hey, I'm in camp with Alex Morgan with that sort of nervous feeling, and so I went in with some type of comfort. And so that's kind of what eased my mind at the end of the day. And so, I had players like Allie Long and a few other players come up to me and say, hey, you deserve to be in here. Just be you, do what you do best on the field. That's why you're here. Don't worry about anybody else that's out here. You worry about you and you just put in the work and you're going to be fine. And so receiving information like that from some of the girls was just really eye-opening, and it was just really cool because, sometimes you don't want to worry about what other players are doing and thinking to yourself, oh, should I be doing that?
Mm-hmm.
And, you don't want to change your game up because it could potentially make you a worse player. And so I was able to go into a game, get my first cap, and by the time I got my first touch out of the way, I was like, okay, I'm cool, I'm calm, this is what I've been doing, it's all good. So it was just an incredible experience, of course, and to have my name on the back of that jersey, and it was just, at the end of the day, a true dream come true, and I can't do anything but be thankful.
And let's be honest here, Jess, too. Alex Morgan is probably the one that was saying, oh my gosh, Jess McDonald's here, I can't believe it. I'm sure she was awestruck, be like, holy cow, I can't believe Jess is here. So from all the experiences and success you've had in your career too. But I'm curious to get your thoughts about NWSL expansion right now, because you played your college soccer at the North Carolina, UNC, the powerhouse, and they're in the process of putting together North Carolina FC and bidding for an NWSL team as well, which I think is a long time coming. But from someone like you that spends so much time down in that area, when you hear North Carolina finally getting on board with getting an NWSL team, what are your thoughts about that?
I think it's absolutely amazing. Just the simple fact that we are expanding this league, that's a true accomplishment for this league specifically, because we have failed numerous times before this. And so the fact that we are able to add teams, it's just absolutely amazing. And for it to be North Carolina just makes it 10 times better, because for a lot of us who came out of Chapel Hill, that's sort of a second home to all of us, for those who aren't even from there.
Exactly.
And so for there to be a program to be there, it's really cool. And it's just amazing to see a team come into the league coming from there.
Talking with Jess McDonald of the Western New York Flash on the shopfutsal.com call-in line. Jess, one of the things that we had talked to you about last time you were on the show was the stability aspect of your career, about where you think you were going to continue to move along. You've traveled a lot, you've played for a lot of different teams, but I would safely say that based off of your 2016 performance, I believe you're going to be in New York for a long time. Would you agree with that, or do you, per se, want to continue to stay in New York, I should say?
Yes, most certainly, because I came in here with the team that really wanted me. I came in here with sort of that leadership role and with that veteran role. And so for me to have sort of that chip on my shoulder, it was great pressure for me, because I was able to pass that down to my teammates who I was surrounded by. And to see a great group of girls, especially in the locker room, that's where it came from first. And to have a great coach like Paul Riley sort of bring all of these different individuals that no one really knew, and to bring us all together, it was just really incredible. And so I sort of found some peace and like peace of mind here as well, simply because they took good care of me. And the fact that I'm a mom, they definitely had my back in that aspect. And so with other teams, it was a difficult sort of situation for me, because I was a mom. And so
really,
when I came in, yeah, just a tad. And so it sort of made things a little more difficult for me off the field. But, you know, you don't really see that with me on the field, because I don't let, obviously, personal things get to me on the field. But I was able to find sort of my comfort zone, and, you know, we were just very welcomed here, which was really cool. And so the fact that they wanted me, Jess McDonald, to come here and make a difference for this program was just an absolute incredible honor for me, just because this is just the first team who has truly believed in me and who wants to keep me. This will be my first time in my entire pro career that I'll be playing for the same team more than one season.
Wow. Yeah,
and so that just shows how incredible it is for me, at least.
I would agree with that. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, when you score 10 goals and add 7 assists on top of that, I think any team would be foolish to send a player like that, statistically at least, and I'm sure from an overall perspective, out the door. So that's obviously going for you. So that's congratulations, of course, for that. One other thing I'm curious about, Jess, before I let you go, I recently became a father a couple of weeks ago. My first son was born, and I'm curious if you've got any advice for a new dad about raising a son, since you yourself have one.
Yeah, just cherish every moment that you have with him at this point in time in his life, because he's only going to be a baby for so long.
Yeah.
And then, it really, at the end of the day, it just takes, everything takes patience and it takes repetition, but just obviously continue to be a loving father, and everything else will just fall into place. And it's just going to be a really cool adventure for you as a new parent, just to see the development of your child and just how much love that you could truly have for such a tiny human being. So that's a little peace of mind I've got for you.
I would have to agree with that, and I definitely agree. The first 3 weeks of his life have already flown by, I feel like. I'm like, no, you were just born. What do you mean you're almost a month old? I'm like, stop.
I know, yeah.
I'm going to have to start applying for college financial aid next week, I feel like. It's ridiculous.
I understand. Trust me.
Oh, my gosh. Well, Jess, it's been a blast, and we appreciate you taking time on Two Up Front again, and we hope to do this again with you sometime soon, all right?
Most certainly. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Anytime. There goes Jess McDonald on the shopfutsal.com call-in line. When we come back, Chris Blakely from VAVEL USA is going to be here to chat about the Seattle Sounders and, of course, MLS Cup. Will Seattle finally win? Well, I hope not, but I'm sure Chris does. We'll talk to him right after this. It's Two Up Front, presented by Three Lions Pub. Back inside the Attention Amber Media Studios, it's 2 Up Front presented by Three Lions Pub. I'm Baxter Colburn. No Simon Provan today. He'll be back again on Tuesday. So fear not for those of you that are just holding on for Simon to come back. That's someone that actually knows soccer and doesn't just spew randomness. No, I feel like I have a fairly decent grasp of soccer, but Simon is the historian on the show, so he, of course, is more insightful, and he's an actor as well, too, so he can put his words together, or at least act like he can put his words together. See what I did there? Anyway, and give us always a good time. So he'll be back again, but he is actually going to join us in the last segment. I just got a text from him saying that he is out of his presentation, so we will get a first update from him to hear how things went from that. And just get his general thoughts, of course, and talk about MLS Cup. So let's go to Seattle to talk about the Seattle Sounders, and there's nobody better or more qualified to speak about the Seattle Sounders, aside from Seattle Sounders players, of course, than Chris Blakely, the lead editor at VAVEL USA, and he is back on the program again. Chris, welcome back, sir. How are we doing?
I'm doing well. Just hanging there, ready for Saturday. Let's just put it that way.
Ready for Saturday. Has it hit you yet that the Sounders are going to play for an MLS Cup on Saturday yet?
Yes and no. It's still kind of hard to believe, and honestly, since that Sunday, I've been counting down the days.
Of course,
we're finally at 2 now. So
yes, finally.
I also want to say real quick. It seems like lately, every time I come on, Simon's not around. Is he mad at me because I'm a Sounders fan and I'm playing in the MLS Cup? What's going on?
You said it, not me. I have no idea. No, Simon is a busy man, as you know, and I think we've actually had the flip side as well too. I've been gone, and when he's been on with you,
true.
I think before
True.
too. So, but
I gotta give him a little bit of a hard time.
Please, no. I mean, his team didn't make the playoffs after they won the championship last year. I would give him a hard time as well. And then he can just look at me and be like, well, you're a Revolution fan. Be like, yeah, well, we didn't make the final last year, so let's not talk about it. So anyway,
true.
It's not about me. It's not about what New England has to do, which is a lot. Speaking of which, I was going to ask you about Seattle, and I just looked down at MLSsoccer.com, and I see that Michael Parkhurst has been traded to Atlanta. So that's interesting.
News to me.
Yeah, news to me as well, too. What are your thoughts about that before I get into Seattle with you quickly?
Well, I could say, since you kind of caught me off guard with that one, I don't have too much, but Atlanta seems to be making all the right moves, that's for sure.
They do, yeah. They're going to get, Atlanta is getting Parkhurst, and looks like they're just going to get some allocation money sent back to Columbus. So
wow.
That's going to be interesting. Parkhurst is 32, but still a very capable player, I would have to say.
And he's got experience, too. So
exactly.
Every new team needs those experienced players, especially on the back line.
Yeah, yep, exactly. I don't want to be that guy and jump on the Atlanta United bandwagon quite yet, but part of me is like, this team really seems to know what they're doing. It'd be hard to not be a closet or a secondary fan of what they're doing at the moment.
Yeah, no, exactly. I just hope they succeed, honestly. Great coach, in my opinion.
Yeah.
They're making all the right moves. Seems like they're signing all the right players. They might come out the gate, swinging, if you will. They might do pretty well. I mean, they're still got a lot to build on and so forth, but it'll be interesting to see. I'm kind of with you, too. I don't want to hop on the bandwagon yet, but I'll definitely be keeping my eye out for them.
Exactly.
And also,
exactly.
If the Sounders play them on the road, it gives me a reason to go down south and visit my family as well. So it's perfect.
There you go. I'll be like, hey, family, I'm here for you. Actually, no, I'm here to watch Atlanta. But even still, either way, whatever I got to say to get down and have free room and board for a night or two, right?
Exactly.
All right, well, let's talk about it, Chris. The Seattle Sounders, more so from their perspective, they take on Toronto FC at BMO Field Saturday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Fox. Is Seattle the favorite in this game, or are they embracing the underdog role?
No, I don't want to be a homer and say they're in Seattle they're the favorite, but everywhere else they're not.
Okay, that's kind of what my thought has been too.
They are, clearly an underdog. Honestly, they've been the underdog all year, which
since
is kind of
July,
crazy to say.
I feel like.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody thought they were going to do it, besides me telling you they were going to do it.
Thanks for that one, Chris.
No, they're definitely the underdog. I mean, if you're into betting, which I'm not, but if you're into that,
you had a couple bucks laying around.
Exactly. All the odds are in favor of Toronto. I mean, and it should be. They're playing at home. It's going to be cold. That's the advantage of having a better record and so forth. But you know what? This entire playoffs, they weren't supposed to beat the Supporters' Shield winning FC Dallas. They did that.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't supposed to beat the best team at home, and they did that. They completely. I mean, they had to. They took a lot of punches, if you will, but they kept answering the 10 count, and they didn't give up anything, and they got that much needed away goal and put them through. So I mean, and Brian Schmetzer, he is so good at keeping his team prepared and focused, and so yes, on paper they're the underdog, but I think a lot of people are going to be shocked.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you on that one for sure. Talk to me a little bit about Jordan Morris, and if he doesn't show up, what that does for the Sounders.
He's had a couple. Now, obviously, the last series against Colorado, he showed up. He scored 2 goals. He's been a very, very streaky player, as we all know. He started off the season very slow.
Sure.
Then had 4 games in a row with a goal, then slumped and scored the slump. I mean, but Valda, I think the key. I mean, yes, obviously, if Toronto's going to focus on Morris and Ladero and so forth, because obviously they're the 2 of the better players on the team on the attacking side of things. But also Toronto's got to be wary of Valdez.
Yeah,
he's played extremely well these playoffs. In that game, that second leg game against Colorado, he did exactly what needed to be done. He held up the ball, allowed the other players to get into the attack. But honestly, though, I think Morris, he'll in the game he gets streaky as well, from what I've noticed. But a lot of people don't understand also is how much defense he plays.
Yeah, it's true. He does.
He is, especially being on the wing. He is good at tracking back. And if you watch, going back to the Colorado game, even after he got banged up after taking those cleats to the knee on his game-winning goal, he just came back on the field and he's still tracking 70, 80 yards back to play defense. So I mean, even if he's not doing it on the offensive side, he's doing it on the defensive side, and I don't think a lot of offensive-minded players do. Well, actually, I know they don't. You won't see Josie Altidore run from the penalty spot to the other penalty spot.
I didn't do that as a forward either in my career. I was like, they got that. I'm like, I'd stop at midfield if I was lucky. Be like, I'll just wait for the ball. It's fine. They got it.
Pretty much. Yeah. But granted, he does in the 4-2-3-1, he does play the wing, so it is his responsibility to go up and down the. Yeah, exactly. And late in the game, he might slide up to the top if they have to sub out Valdez.
Yep.
But for the first 60, 70 minutes, he's going to be clearly on the left or right wing.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that one too. I think Jordan Morris, of course, is that X factor in this game where if he shows up, it'll be a good thing. If he doesn't show up, it could be a potential difference. Obviously, not as much as what it would be if Nicholas Ladero decides to just not show up. That's a whole nother player, of course. But you look at this potential starting lineup. Tyrone Mears, Roman Torres, Chad Marshall, and Jovan Jones. That's a pretty solid back 4, but they're going to have to put up with a lot. You're going to have to deal with Giovinco, Michael Bradley, Josie Altidore, Torsten Ricketts, and so many others just barraging the Seattle back 4, for 90 minutes. Does Seattle have the personnel to do that and not come out on the losing end of things?
With Josie, I know he's a very physical player. We saw that in the second leg against Montreal.
Yeah.
If he should be playing or not's a whole nother question. But I think, honestly, I really think Torres is that counter to his physicality. Roman is very, very physical in the box. And obviously, we know how good Chad Marshall is. He's the only 3-time MLS Defender of the Year award winner in the history. So I really do. Jovan Jones on the left out there, he does a great job of getting forward. That first game against Dallas, him and Jordan Morris hooked up so many times.
Yeah. I'm
kind of hoping to see that, especially with Toronto doing the 3-5-2, and that's exactly what Dallas did in the first leg of 3-5-2. So if you're a Seattle fan, feel very optimistic about that. So I actually expect Morris to start the game on the left. Now, Mears, on the other hand, since Schmetzer's taken over, he's gotten much better, but the first 4 months of the season, he was absolutely atrocious, and I was ready to see him just go home. He's gotten a little bit better. That second leg game against Dallas, I believe he had 12 touches all game, which is crazy for your right back to only have 12 touches.
Yeah, that should not happen.
But he kind of comes and goes. But hopefully he's going to be prepared to be at his best for this game.
Exactly.
What I'm most excited about, though, is the 2 holding defensive midfielders of Alonso and Roldan. I think that right there is really going to be the key to the game. Can those 2 control Giovinco and Bradley?
Yes, that is the big thing. And Giovinco and Bradley especially has kind of been all over the place this season. Simon and I have been exceptionally critical of Michael Bradley in 2016 as a whole, and we'll have to see what Michael Bradley shows up on Saturday night. I have to let you go, unfortunately, Chris, but I want a prediction before we let you go. What are you thinking?
Oh, you just had to do that to me, didn't you?
Of course.
God, Sounder fans are going to hate to hear this, but I really think this is going extra time. I'm thinking 2-1 Seattle.
Are you sure?
It honestly, I'll make it quick. It really depends on how Alan Kelly calls the game. If he allows a little bit of physicality to go, that I actually believe that favors Seattle a little bit.
Okay.
Because Alonso can impose his will in the midfield.
Yes.
If he's calling fouls quickly and issuing yellow cards, it might swing to Toronto. But I'm going to stick with it 2-1 Seattle.
Okay. Well, you heard it here first. And real quickly before we let you go, where can people find your work and find you on social media?
VAVELUSA.com, soccer section, and social media. I'm on Twitter at @TheRealCBlakely, and that's BLAKELY.
Fantastic, Chris. Always a pleasure, and we'll have to talk to you next week or the week after to see just how things shook up and to get your raw reaction, all right?
Well, depending on the outcome, it might take me 2 weeks. So.
Sounds good, Chris. Thanks, man. Always a pleasure.
All right, thanks, Max.
All right, final break. When we come back, Simon Provan will be here. You're not going to want to miss it. He'll chat with me briefly on the phone and offer his prediction as well, too. He did offer it on Tuesday, but I'm going to have him see just in case he changed his mind. It's 2 Up Front, presented by Three Lines Pub. Back right after this. Welcome back to the Attention Era Media Studios. This is Baxter Colburn. It's 2 Up Front, presented by Three Lines Pub. And we are back on the show, rolling right along to close out things. Great conversation with Chris Blakely there from VAVEL USA. Always good to get his thoughts and opinions about the soccer world, especially anything to do with the Seattle world. We are joined on the phone by the man, Simon Provan, fresh off of his presentation, and I can still hear the cheers in the background there, Simon. They must have loved you. How'd everything go?
It actually did go fantastic.
Great.
It was good. Yeah, I was talking about the last 2 years I've been out in Oregon doing some actor training and getting certified in that type of actor training.
Oh, okay.
So now I teach it here and where I work, and because the school paid for all of it, they asked me to give a presentation on it. So I thought it was fair enough to to meet that requirement.
Yeah, I mean when somebody else is paying the bills, you might as well. The least you could do would be to humor them, I guess, and do a little something nice for them. So, well, that's fantastic.
Right. So just to clarify, Chris Blakely, I'm not afraid of you at all. I'll take you on any time, buddy.
Ooh, here we go. I'm curious now. We'll have to get him back on again next week and see. You can give him your raw thoughts and feelings based off of how Seattle does on Saturday night. You did take Seattle to win on Tuesday. Have you changed your mind at all yet about everything there, Simon?
I haven't. And in fact, Chris and I gave the exact same prediction. I also said 2-1.
Mm-hmm.
But thinking about the weather, Baxter, thinking about how hard that ball is going to be, I'm actually going to up that. I'm going to up it severely, and people are going to laugh at me, and I'll probably laugh at myself later. But the way Toronto has been scoring goals and the way Seattle has been playing, the goalkeepers and defense are going to have a very tough time stopping this bowling ball of a ball. So I'm going to up the score line. I agree with Chris that it will be an extra time game, but I think it's going to be more like 3-2 Seattle.
Interesting. Okay, yeah, I definitely could see that taking place. And I think that would be more entertaining overall, too, to see multiple goals from each team and kind of a back-and-forth sort of affair as a whole. Yeah,
it all depends on how that cold weather affects them. Toronto's up there already. So in that final that we had with, who was it, Sporting Kansas City, and who did they play?
Oh, gosh. Oh, my gosh, who the heck did they play? Was it RSL?
Yeah.
No.
I think it was RSL.
I think so.
You would expect it had been... No, it couldn't have been. Oh, wait, yeah, was that the year RSL represented the East Conference? That was one of those weird years?
That was back when Sporting was still in the East, before the expansion.
Oh, is that what... Okay. Because there was that one year where if you remember, where the seeding didn't really matter what the conference is, and because the West had one extra seed over the East, that team then represented the East. I don't know if you remember that, but
vaguely,
but I do.
Yes.
It was one of those quirky MLS things.
Yeah.
Anyways, going back to the weather, I think it depends on how they handle, like I said, this heavy ball. And you had mentioned about Ladero being great with restarts. Well, we also see Javinko being great on restarts. So
yes.
I think there's a very strong possibility we do see a lot of goals.
Yeah, and I think that would be just fine for most fans, as long as their team, of course, comes out on the winning side of things. When you look at this game and you kind of look forward as well too, I mean, do we agree that I don't know if the two best teams, is that the right way to place it? When you look at a final, people are always judging, did the two best teams make it, or did the two most deserving teams? Or I don't really know how to break down this final and say, I think these two teams are blank, in MLS, and they do deserve to be there. I don't know. Do they?
I think you have a stronger argument for Toronto in that case than you do Seattle. Now, that said, obviously when Ziggy was let go and Ladero was brought in, Seattle has been hot since then. Mm-hmm. And they definitely have taken advantage of every single opportunity that came their way. But, if you put this in long-term perspective, I think FC Dallas perhaps has the brightest future in the Western Conference, considering how powerful they are and yet how young they are.
Agreed, yeah.
Whereas Toronto, most of us, I think, were picking them halfway through the season to go all the way to the Cup. Oh,
yeah. They were rolling through the Eastern Conference, and a lot of folks, I mean, you and I think both as well, were just like, this Toronto team is scary. And I think, and back when we still thought the Red Bulls, of course, were going to make it as well, too. We're like, this is going to be a battle between if the Red Bulls or TFC are going to be able to come out of the East, and then they didn't even have to deal with each other, which was kind of a funny thing.
Right, yeah, absolutely. So, to your question, are these the two best teams? And I don't, it's tough to argue against Seattle too when you consider the last third of their season.
Yeah, what they've gone through.
They've been the best since then. Yeah. So even though they, I know Chris was mentioning that they're probably the underdog in this one. Mm-hmm. I actually don't think there was much of an underdog. These are two pretty even teams. Seattle has a stronger defense than Toronto. Toronto's got a more explosive offense.
Yep.
Seattle perhaps has a little bit better of a goalkeeper than Toronto does. But then you look at the way Toronto's been playing in their 3-5-2, how well they've used that to expose defensive holes. So really, I don't think you could ask for a much more balanced final on paper than what we're getting on Saturday.
I'd agree with you on that one. All right. Well, one other thing before we let you go, Simon, before we have to wrap up the show, North Carolina FC and the Tampa Bay Rowdies announcing MLS aspirations. Do you like it? Do you not like it? And why?
Here we go. All right. I'll keep this short. First of all,
I had to ask.
So sick of these. I'm so sick of these bland FC names, Baxter. Mm-hmm. North Carolina FC. On top of that, if you haven't looked at their logo, make sure you look up their logo. It looks like okay. To me, it looks like they wanted to have MLS logo .2.
Yeah, I can see that.
As far as Tampa Bay, I think it's cool, but their stadium design
is unique.
If you look at their stadium design, you got one side of the field, the whole half doesn't have seats, and then on the other side of the stadium, you have a quarter of a field that doesn't have seats. I don't mind Tampa Bay bidding for an MLS franchise. I think times are different since the mutiny closed up shop.
Yes,
but you got to come up with a better design because I think the atmosphere. I don't care that most of that stadium would end up being covered. There's still, to me, it looks like there's half a stadium missing. So I just don't buy into that there would be a great atmosphere down there.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that too. Looking at the rendering again to it, that was my first thought. I was like, well, this is unique. I was like, I don't know if I like it, but it's unique, But yeah, it's always interesting to see all these teams trying to get in, and of course, the more teams you add, then that promotion relegation talk, of course, gets even louder and louder, and then you got to deal with all of that, of course, which you and I love to talk about.
And there is one thing I do want to talk about, Baxter. I don't know if you guys talked about this during the kick-around from, obviously brought to you by Too Much Metal. But LAFC has linked up with USL's Orange County to basically have them as their affiliate.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I thought that was a good move from them. And LAFC, and we talked about Atlanta briefly as well too, and everything that they're doing. They traded for Michael Parkhurst as well, which is I think
I saw that right before I came on too. Yeah, that's man, Atlanta's doing everything right off the field.
Yeah,
except for their name and their logo. Everything else is pretty respectable.
Except for their very being as a whole, they're doing fantastic. Perfect. Well, Simon, any final thoughts before we let you run, sir?
Hey, I am really excited about this final. I hope the cold weather doesn't become too much of a detrimental thing to this game. But for the fact that you're looking at Josie Altidore, Michael Bradley, Jordan Morris all being on the same field.
Yep.
You're seeing Nicholas Ladero. You're seeing Sebastian Javinko on the same field. This, hopefully, is what the future of the league continues to look like. U.S. national team players playing their hearts out, younger DPs that will help this league grow, two very strong teams, and a wonderful atmosphere that's going to be up in Toronto. So I couldn't be more stoked about this final, Baxter.
Exactly. I am thrilled about it as well, too. I'm going to be down at Moran's Pub Saturday night to go and give it a gander, so I'm excited for that.
Awesome.
All right, Simon, you have a great weekend, sir.
Yeah, you too, Baxter. Enjoy the game.
Absolutely. We'll talk to you on Tuesday, all right?
Sounds good, bud.
All right, there goes Simon Provan on the shopfutsal.com call-in line. Special thanks to him and, of course, our three fantastic guests today, Melissa Henderson from the Houston Dash, Jess McDonald of the Western New York Flash, and Chris Blakely from VAVEL USA. If you missed any of today's show, you can find it by going to our website, 2upfrontsoccer.com, and listening to it on demand right there. You can also, of course, find it on iHeartRadio and iTunes as well. All right, when we come back on Tuesday, we'll have all that recap action for you about MLS Cup, and Simon and I will be back in the studio together, and life will be back to normal again. As normal as it can be, of course. For Simon Provan, I'm Baxter Colburn. With our manager being the one above, we are 2 Up Front.